Welcome to LockDownLunacy's September edition.
We're halfway through September.
I know.
Yeah. Had a great interview last week with Dr. Anita.
Absolutely amazing. If you missed that, you have to go back and
check out the card.
Yeah. But you know what? This whole month is going to be fantastic.
Oh, yes, for sure. Before we talk about today's guest, don't forget to give us a like, maybe subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell and leave us a comment. Tell us maybe what you would like us to do next in our
that would be fun.
Variety show. That would be fun, yeah.
Because this is a variety show, isn't it?
It is. And we've done a variety of things.
We've done lots of things. We are multi-talented.
Yes. Well, this interview was actually recorded last month, and we had a great time talking with the Right Reverend Dr. National Superintendent Steve Elliott.
I know, like his name is either preceded by a whole bunch of
titles
stuff, or his name is like followed by a whole list of things. He's also the professor at Kingswood University, or a professor, the pastor at Kingswood University, an author, church planter, you name it.
So many things.
So many things. He's very eclectic.
And like last week's meeting, this is going to be a longer video, but lots of information in there. So
yeah, lots of great content and a great interview.
Yes. Hope you like it. So let's head on over and listen in. Welcome, Dr. Elliott. We are so glad that you could join us again on Lockdown Lunacy.
I'm very honored to be here. Thanks for asking me.
So it's been about a year. I can't remember exactly when we did this before. It was probably in May last year. What's been going on in your life this last year?
Oh my goodness. Well, lots with the National Church. Lots of things behind the scenes. We finished up a study on transgenderism and the impact on the church. We're just launching right now a major study of pastors and missionaries that are retiring or disabled or injured, to see how the denomination can stand better with them. Peggy has contributed wonderfully to a study on women in ministry that she's reported on. We actually have a national board meeting that's coming up this coming weekend out in Calgary. And so we're hoping, we don't know this yet, but we're thinking that the next national conference will be in Calgary for the Wesleyan Church in Canada, because we want to keep a national vision in mind for people, that we're not just on the eastern side of the country. We actually are responsible for the entire nation, north to south and east to west. And so we're looking at that. And interestingly, we're looking at the next conference after that being in Newfoundland. And so we're just continuing to throw out the vision that we're a national church. We need to take our national responsibility seriously. And just very, very recently, of course, the earthquake in Haiti that's taking place, and we're trying to be responsive to that, to the needs that are there through World Hope International. Tanya Nace does a marvelous job helping to coordinate getting clean water to areas that desperately need it. And we just heard that the church in Egypt is celebrating 100 years. And so there's going to be a 10-day celebration of their ministry in Egypt beginning December 1st to 11th. And so I know that there'll be some people that will want to partake in that type of a celebration as well. So, I mean, there's just tons and tons of stuff that's going on, but those are just some things that's come to my mind right off the bat.
So COVID hasn't stopped the church.
That would be very accurate. It would be very accurate. I was talking to one of our pastors this summer. I spoke almost every Sunday this summer at various churches, and Zion Hill Camp, for instance, in Ontario. But one of our pastors in Ontario, during some of the worst part of COVID, they were restricted to having 10 people in their worship services. And so they made the decision to have 7 weekly services with 10 people per service. It's you talk about a commitment by the pastoral staff. I mean, I've preached 3 or 4 times in a row, but to preach 7 times in a row, the same sermon, by the end of the 7th time, you know that sermon, I'll tell you. So no, the ministry has continued. The summer camps, both at Silver Lake and Zion Hill, and out here in the Maritimes, at the Beulah campgrounds and things, Cadence Island, ministry has been continuing in a modified way, but no, the ministries have continued. Our chaplains are doing the very best they can to be responsive to the folks that they care for in the prison system. So no, ministry continues.
You had mentioned some things coming up, directions for injured and disabled pastors. I'm kind of interested in that. And is there anything a little bit more you can share?
Well, when I was elected as the national superintendent, I identified 4 priorities that I had. One is ministry health and multiplication. We want all of our ministries to be healthy and multiplying. But the second of the 4 priorities is leadership development and leadership care. As it relates to leadership care, I was particularly interested to know whether our retired pastors, our retired missionaries, those that get injured or those who come down with disease or disabled for some reason, whether or not they have felt that the denomination has stood well with them. I think, for instance, of missionaries that come back, they've been serving overseas for years, and maybe their pension and retirement plan isn't all that strong. They probably don't own any property, to be able to retire to. And so, like, where do they go? Like, how are they provided for in their retirement years? And so, we have a few options. For instance, in Belleville, Ontario, there's a joint project that was developed many years ago with the Free Methodist Church, the Standard Church, and Wesleyan Church, called Aldersgates Homes. And it's about 110 units that was built specifically by the 3 denominations to help people in their retirement years. Those units are exceptionally affordable. I think that the single bedroom facilities are about $790 a month, and that includes utilities. The 2-bedroom ones, I think, are in the low 900s or something like that. And so, fairly affordable housing. But a lot of Wesleyans don't even know that it exists because it hasn't been advertised very well. I know a number of pastors recently that have retired and have settled into Beulah campgrounds. They've bought homes there and either winterized them or done something. But I'd just be interested to know, so that's why we're doing this study, where we want to ask the questions. We don't want to make any assumptions. How has the denomination stood with you? Have we done a good job? Where are the things that we could improve on? So I'll give you one very real example. I was talking to the wife of one of our disabled pastors, and they're on long-term disability right now. And I asked them, I said, how does the long disability plan work? Is it going well for you? And they said, yes, it's been faithfully coming into our bank account the way that it's supposed to. But then she said, I was surprised to discover that there's no cost of living increase. That whatever you start with, so let's just pick a number. Let's say that you get disabled in 2020 and you're getting, I don't know, say $500 a month. I'm just picking a number at random here. Well, for the rest of your life, you only get $500 a month. There's no cost of living increase. So as a national church, we looked into it and we discovered that, yes, we have the ability to modify the plan so that there is a cost of living increase. And we did. We have already instituted that to make sure that at least, there's a small increase coming in. to what people are receiving from their long-term disability plan. So that's the types of things that we're looking into to see what we can do. There's limitations. We're not a rich denomination. We're not a large denomination. So there's some things that we probably are not going to be able to do. But anything we can do, that's what we want to do.
Wow.
That's
good.
so encouraging as I think about my retirement coming up, within the next 50 years, that, we're starting to look forward to that, and how can we better minister to those who have been ministering. So kudos.
Yeah, looking after our servant leaders in their time when they really need it. One of the common things that I do here is, of course, our Blue Cross plan is only for employees. And so, when a person retires at age 65 or 70 or whenever they retire, they immediately come off of that. Therefore, they lose their dental, their eye care, their help with medications and all that type of thing. We do know that Blue Cross does have a provision that a person who has been on Blue Cross with us can transition to one of their different plans. And so we're looking to see, well, how attractive is that? Does that actually meet anybody's needs? Or is it so cost prohibitive that it's something that people don't want to lean into? So we're looking at that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to be careful. I want to under promise and over deliver. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I'm not making any promises of what we can do, but we're trying to investigate and find out what are the real life needs that people have, and is there anything that we can do within the means that we have to be helpful to folks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that sounds amazing. When COVID hit last year, and there were all these things that were going on with 7 days a week preaching, drive-ins being taken over, online services going on. What have been some of the sort of amazing stories that have come out of that time that you might know as the national superintendent of something or someone or a church somewhere just having an amazing response even during COVID?
Well, the district office would know that better than I, because they have a closer relationships to the local churches. I hear things anecdotally that are going on. I hear about ministries that are taking place, the online ministries with people that normally would not darken the door of a church. But because it's now being offered online, there's ministry going on. As a very close example in my own family, my dad lives in retirement housing. He's 94, and he can't get out to church anymore at all. And so I know that yesterday he watched the church service from Belleville Wesleyan online. It was Pastor Mark Sullivan who was preaching. Well, that's, that was not taking place. That type of ministry was not taking place 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But it's an expanded type of ministry that's reaching people that either can't come or weren't coming, or COVID didn't allow them to come. And of course, with being on the internet, it can go far and wide. I hear about people, churches reporting things like, there's people in Brazil or there's people in Mexico that are regularly watching their church services, obviously that would never have an opportunity to come near the door of the church. You cannot replace face-to-face ministry. I mean, that's the reality. There's too much of body language that takes place that you just don't get it looking at a screen. But with the restrictions of COVID that are going on, making the best of the mediums that we have available to us. I know churches that were recording their sermons, and some of the older folk in the church don't have internet. And so they were putting it on DVD, and they were dropping it at the door with a little gift basket on a weekly basis, with some cookies or something of that nature, to some of the folks that wouldn't be able to be able to see the services. So, I do know this. I was in conversation with some folks at Evangelical Fellowship of Canada recently, and they have been doing a very, very large study of small churches in Canada and some of the unique challenges and opportunities and blessings that they are. And one of the early reports that they're that are coming from this study is they're talking about how tired the pastors are. They've just been giving and giving and giving, trying to work with the restrictions that are on the churches. And Evangelical Fellowship of Canada is saying they are expecting that once COVID lifts, there's actually going to be mass numbers of resignations of pastors, not meaning that they're leaving ministry, but they're so tired they just need a break, and maybe even just a change of ministry locations. And so this is not Wesleyan, this is across evangelical denominations in Canada, but it's one of the early consequences or parts of the survey that they're discovering is how frequently they're hearing pastors say they feel isolated, they feel tired, they're frustrated, because most of us are people. You know, that's why we're pastors, is because we care about people. And when you don't have those human interactions, you know, people start going a little squirrely.
Yeah.
So speaking from my own experience, you know, standing in front of a camera on Sunday morning to preach, and I can't see the reactions of the people that are listening, that is just so difficult. And I wonder, you know, are they even listening? So when I get a note from somebody who's at church and they say, oh, you know, you said such and such, and that really spoke to me this morning. It's like, oh, they are listening. Yay. But it is so difficult to preach to a camera.
Yeah. I was very proud of Kingswood University. You probably are all aware of this, that Kingswood University made available about 6 or 7 sermons online. Dr. Lennox preached them, Mike McNeil preached 1 or 2, I did 3 or 4, and we made them available for pastors that they're just tired, they need a break, that they can download the sermons, use them for free, use them as often as they want. I did have one pastor contact me recently, and he says he's used all of them. Are there more available? And so I actually said to him, I was not too far away from where he was, and I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'll come to where you are. I said, I'll record a sermon for you that's not been part of the previous sermons that have been available for you. And so I did. I went to the church, and I just stood in front of the camera, like you just said, and preached my little heart out. And I suspect that he's going to use it actually this coming Sunday. So if anybody's listening to this and you have not used the sermons that are available from Kingswood, just contact myself or Kingswood and say, where are they on the internet? And there's at least 7, I think, on there, maybe 8 or 9 that are available that are free to be used. And of course, Dr. Lennox is a masterful preacher, and he's always got such great depth and wonderful insights. And Mike McNeil's, he's just so relational and so conversational. He did his outdoors, actually. He stood outdoors and preached his message. Mine are all done in the chapel here, so they're a little bit more formal, and they're all designed specifically for local churches to use. You also asked, like, what else, has been going on. One of the things that in the early days of COVID, a lot of churches were not set up for online donations. And so we as a national church, we made that provision through our national website. And so anybody, any place can make a donation on our website. Just tell us which church or which camp or whatever type of ministry it's for, and we will forward that donation. We'll receive it and forward it to the local church. We'll even do the receipting of it, and so the local church doesn't even have to receipt that money. We'll do the receipting for it, but we'll get that money to the local churches. And we didn't have a lot of money. Wow. I think it was something. It was less than $10,000. But still, it was around $10,000 that came in over the last numbers of months that we will make sure that the local churches are receiving, or the camps, or World Hope, or Global Partners, or whoever. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Well,
it was probably one of those emails that I skimmed over.
I guess that's why we're doing this interview, is to get that kind of information out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
One of the things that I've been working on quite solidly in the background is, you may have seen the recent email that went out for me about the challenge, about the time delay between when a donor makes a donation in support of global partners and when the missionary actually gets it. And so we've been getting ways to see if we can't speed that process up, because there's nothing wrong. It's just the system of how it was handled was causing about a 2 to 3 month delay between when a person donates and when the missionary actually gets the money and finds out who their donors are, their donor supporters are. So we're very, very happy. Just about a week or so ago, we sent out the notification and told people about the new systems that are available for supporting our missionaries. And we've got great missionaries that are serving faithfully around the world. So we want to stand with them and get the support to them as in a timely way as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I did see that email, and I didn't even know that it was taking that long for missionaries to receive donations coming in. That wasn't, that was like 2 or 3 months in the delay. That's wow. So that cute, kudos. Way to go.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Stand behind those on the front lines.
So does the money still go through headquarters in Indianapolis, or does the Canadian Wesleyan Church disperse to the missionaries?
So the answer to that question is a little bit complicated, but I'll share with you how it actually works. So the donor donates at the local church, goes to the district, eventually comes to the national church. We report to headquarters how much support comes in for each missionary. We give them the numbers, how much came in for each individual missionary. But the money actually stays in Canada, and we actually do the distribution of it to the Canadian missionaries. We actually pay their salaries, we pay their health benefits, we pay their retirement plan, all that kind of stuff. So the money doesn't really cross the border for the Canadian missionaries. It actually stays in Canada. A lot of donors, of course, are supporting American missionaries. And so that money actually does get sent over to Indianapolis, and it gets administered properly on behalf of the American missionaries from the Canadian donors. So anyways, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what the system is like.
That makes perfect sense. When you consider, if they're Canadian missionaries, then they'll want their CPP rather than old age security.
And they pay into the Canadian Wesleyan retirement plan as well. So,
right.
Which has, by the way, the Canadian Wesleyan retirement plan has done exceptionally well. Most of the, I can't say 100%, but many of the investment vehicles have been giving returns of 20% or 30% or even more in some cases on their retirement funds. And so Canada Life and Doug Ingersoll and the people that help to administer that have done, and Helen Parker have done an amazing job with that kind of stuff. So I'm really, really pleased with how our retirement plan in Canada has gone for our Canadian employees. Yeah.
Good.
And that's not just missionaries, that's pastors, that's theologians, anybody that pays into the retirement plan in Canada.
I've known various pastors who have worked part-time in churches without pay, like they'll get their housing and that's it. And the churches never pay, or even if they do get a part-time salary, the churches don't pay Wesleyan pension. Why not? Like, it bothers me that we're not looking out for the retirement of people who are working in the ministry, even if it's only part-time.
Yeah, so that would be a really great example of the things that we want to find out about how many people are in a situation like that, where the local church has made the decision not to pay into the retirement plan. There is a minimum number of hours per week that you have to be working in order to qualify to be able to pay into the plan. But that is because the retirement plan is connected with long-term disability and with life insurance. And it's the life insurance company and the long-term disability company that we buy the plan through, that they actually are the ones that put the restrictions on and say a person has to work this many hours in order to be covered by long-term disability or the life insurance plan. That's not a decision that we make, that's actually imposed upon us. But I would be surprised. Most of our pastors would exceed the number of hours, the minimum number. I think it's 30 hours a week. I think. Now, sometimes they're putting 30 hours in. They're only being paid for 15 or 20, but they're working 30. So as long as they can verify that they're working 30 hours or more in ministry, then the church or the parachurch, the specialized ministry like the campgrounds and people like that, the monies can be contributed into the retirement plan.
So it's usually decisions at the local level for things like that the local church says we can just barely afford to pay this and nothing for your retirement.
Right. I mean, we want every church to be paying the full 12%. That's what we want to see happen. Mm-hmm. But the financial realities in some local churches just don't allow that to be able to happen. Yeah. I know of individuals that the local church says we can't pay the 12%, but we could pay 5% or we could pay 6%. Well, that's only going to bless the pastor in their retirement years. Better to get something going into that retirement plan than nothing going into it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the earlier that it gets going into it, the better. So yeah, I know individuals that the local church only paid 6% rather than 12%. But we want the local churches to be mindful of the retirement needs of the pastors, and if they're married, their families, way off in the future. The earlier they're paying into it, the better off the pastor will be someday when they're not working in ministry.
Right. So do you have anything encouraging to tell us as pastors in the Canadian, or any pastor anywhere, I suppose, as your sort of parting words for us today?
Oh, sure. I guess one of the things I want to make sure that everybody knows is how incredibly proud I am of our pastors and those that work in the specialized ministries. Their heart for ministry, their heart for God, their heart for their people, their heart for their community has just been exemplary. And so I want to say that to them, make sure that everybody knows that I'm conscious of the great sacrifices that people have made, especially during the season of COVID. I'm hoping to be able to distribute either free or as close to free as I can. I've got 3 books that are at the publishing company right now, and I've got another one that I'm co-authoring with somebody else. And I'm hoping to be able to distribute some books as close to free as I can, get good materials into people's hands that hopefully would be a blessing and help to them in their ministry roles. Anything that the national church can do, like I receive emails and text messages and phone calls fairly frequently from folks, and if there's something I can do, if there's some situation I need to be made aware of, I will do my best to be helpful to people. Yeah. We don't, in case people don't know, we do not have a large national office staff. We've got 3 part-time people, 4 part-time people that work at the national office. And so nobody is full-time, nobody's getting rich at the national office. No, but we're trying to use the resources that we have as wisely as we can to be helpful to those that are on the front lines. Yeah. I guess one thing that I probably need to really also say, it's very important, is the church planting ventures that people are on these days. Even though COVID has really restricted a lot of ministry, there's still been a number of churches that are being started, satellite campuses, brand new churches being started. And so ministry is still happening. The kingdom of God is expanding, God's glory. He's worthy of the very best that we can give him all the time. And so, yeah, his grace is always sufficient. Even when we don't feel like it's sufficient, it's sufficient. Mm-hmm. And there are times we don't think it's sufficient, because even Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Mm-hmm. So there are times that we feel very alone, we feel under-equipped, but the promise of God is that his strength is made perfect in our weakness, and his grace is always sufficient for us. And I hold that to be true to the core of my being.
If there's a pastor out there right now who is struggling, just feels like God has forsaken them, what would you say to them?
I would say that they probably need to be in conversation with somebody that's close by, that can stand with them and pray with them. It's not good for people to be alone in times of great sorrow and burdens and disappointments and hurts and things like that. We're not made to be isolated. We're made to be together. And I have put people that I know in ministry together with professional counselors. We have paid for it to make sure that they're being able to talk with people that've got expertise and wisdom and compassion for their situation. And so if there's anybody that's really going through a hurting time and there's a way that we can stand with them and get them the support that they need, I'll do anything I can to support our servant ministry leaders that are serving so very, very well.
Well, it's been great having you with us, Dr. Elliott. Always a joy to sit under your teaching. Hope you can join us next Thursday for another interview.
I'm Steve Elliott in Sussex, New Brunswick at the National Office.
And I'm Reverend Peggy from Buckins, Newfoundland.
And I'm Reverend Diane from Norton, New Brunswick. Be safe.
Be healthy.
And be the church. God bless.
Bye.